What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video. I do apologize ahead of time because I am suffering from a cold/cough, which has just been absolutely brilliant, if you know what I'm talking about. But last year, I actually ended up doing some of my favorite romantic read recommendations around the time of Valentine's Day because I just love. And I thought it would be fun to do a part 2 for this video with even more bookish recommendations. So if that sounds like something you might enjoy, definitely stick around. I would love to see what you guys think of these choices. It's reading time here at JB's Corner. So I'm kind of going to divide this up into different sections so that we can capture all of these different types of romance books, also slightly genre/seasonally as well, because I have realized there's quite a few. Now, one thing I did want to do compared to the video I did last year was include new authors that I had not previously put in my favorite romance novels of the past. So I didn't include any of the authors from that video, but I still maintain that those are some of my favorite authors of all time when it comes to this romancy genre. So I will definitely link that video at the end here as well. For those of you that are new here, I just wanted to introduce myself. My name is Jaya and I put out videos every Wednesday and Sunday on bookish related content. If that sounds like something fun, then definitely stick around. Would love to have you here for this video as we talk all things books. For those of you that are returning, thank you so much for being such a wonderful bookish community. It's such an honor and a pleasure to have you guys here supporting me and for us to be able to create this wonderful community to talk all things books. I cannot thank you guys enough. Also, just wanted to say, in the spirit of wearing pink throughout the course of this month, I realize the top has a little bit of green in it, but I just wanted to show you guys how pink these pants are. Take a peek at them. Aren't they pinkalicious? So we're doing hot pink with pink and green on the top because we are maintaining that pink theme throughout this month. So now that that's out of the way, let's get into the actual books. Okay, so I think I'm going to start with the dark romance vibe/fantasy vibe to begin with, because I realize that's what honestly has the most number of books in terms of the choices that I have selected here. So I just also wanted to say that this video is going to be a little bit on the longer side. So definitely grab yourself a warm beverage of choice, or if it's not a warm beverage, a beverage of choice. Here it's a little chilly, so that's why I'm feeling more warm beverage, but a beverage of choice, a snack if you guys want, because this might take a little bit of time. But I did want to talk about the Mind F series. Now, this is not the first time I have done a shout out to this book, but this book by Miss S.T. Abby, or as I like to say, Stabby Abby, is absolutely incredible. It's actually a combination of 5 different small novellas put together, which is following the love story of a serial killer and an FBI agent. Now, the funny part is the FBI agent is actually trying to track down this serial killer throughout the course of the story. But we as individuals tend to root for our serial killer in this novel because her agenda is very, very fair. And the people that she's targeting, 100% on the money for that too. I love the power, the intrigue, the intensity that happens in this book. I love the plot line and the fact that there's so much depth to these characters, but I also really truly enjoy the romance between these 2 main characters, as well as the relationships that these characters develop with the adjacent characters in the book as well. It's just a really fun read, and I thoroughly enjoyed myself going through this book, and I would strongly recommend picking this up, especially around the fall/winter time if you guys want something that's romantic with a little bit of a stab vibe to it as well. I would put this in the same ballpark as the Ruinous Love trilogy, but without the same level of spice and with a little bit more plot, if that makes any sense. Okay, from that book, we're going to transition more into true fantasy romance, but these are going to be kind of in the realm of supernatural as well. So the first set of books that I wanted to talk about was The Coven and the Cursed. These are the first 2 books in Harper L. Wood's series of The Covenant. And basically we are following the story of multiple different characters in this book, but in the first 2 books we're following the characters of Alaric and Willow. And in this book, Willow is a witch who has basically been raised away from the coven, taught the proper ways of magic by her mother, who is being hunted by the coven because she's the last known green witch. The coven is a group of witches, male and female, who basically have powers tied to the various elements of earth and emotive sensation. Lust is basically what I'm trying to say. And they pull their magic from these various sources. Now, the coven is slowly dying, so they need the last green witch to return. What they don't realize, though, is that Willow is actually also gotten magical powers from her dad's side, which was not supposed to happen, but she also has the powers of necromancy. So Willow ends up showing up to the coven basically with a plan to take them down and basically rewrite the wrongs that the coven has created. Meanwhile, the coven wants to bring Willow into their folds to basically make her take the seat of her ancestor as a new covenant member in order to help restore the balance of power to their magical circle. And then we have the love interest between Willow and Alaric, which is very dark, alluring, but also fun to read. These are fun, fast-paced books, and they're definitely on the darker romance spectrum. It definitely has some spice, so if you're not into spice, don't pick these books up because it's definitely spicy. But I would say the overall storyline, the plot, the character development was actually really fun to read, and I thoroughly enjoyed the magic systems. I feel like these would be great reads for October, and I think they're definitely fun romances to pick up for sure. These two books have been all over the internet, but I do feel like there's a reason for it. Carissa Broadbent just has a way of telling a story where there's so much plot, so much character development, and so much politics in a book that you are fully immersed in this world and you feel like you're a part of the novel itself. The romance between the characters is also very well done, which makes it that much more enjoyable. The Crowns of Nyaxia basically follows various vampire clans and their romantic interests, as well as them navigating the battle that's going on between the gods who are flawed in and of themselves. So these characters are both vampires that come from two different aspects of the same blood line or the blood house, and basically we have a competition between two different kingdoms to see who's going to ascend the throne. Throughout the course of this, the two opposing characters end up meeting each other through a set of trials and end up falling in love, and this leads to a lot of different craziness. So essentially it's an enemies to lovers kind of novel, and I do think the set was very enjoyable and fun to read. I think the romance was well done, but also the overall plotline and story was great. And if you like vampires and magic systems and things like that, then I do think this is a fun book to read. I also love our main female character in this book because she's extremely strong, extremely resilient, and human, which makes it that much more fun. And she kicks vampire butt, which is great and fun to read as well. So would definitely recommend this. Crowns of Nyaxia is going to be a 6-book series with 2 sets of books per each set of the series, where basically you have mini duologies within this larger overbreaching series. So the first 2 books follow our House of Blood. No, not House of Blood. This is House of Nightborn. So no, Nightborn are all the same. House of, no. You know what? I can't find the exact house they're from. I do apologize. But there is a House of Blood. That's what the next 2 books are going to be about, which is why I'm like so confused. And then the other one, the other set of books, which is following our character Misha, has to do with the House of Shadows. So I don't know which house this is, but essentially the Nightborn duet is the story of, maybe it is the Nightborn. So this series basically follows the 2 main characters from that particular house. The next set will follow the House of Shadows, and then the last set is going to follow the House of Blood. But each of these different duologies follow a romance along with a political plotline that's taking place within this world of Nyaxia. I do think that this was a wonderful, wonderful duology, and I really enjoyed the next 2 books in the series as well. And I think they're fun romance. So if you are a mood reader like me, this would be great for October. But if you are a fantasy lover in general and you still want a really powerful romance, especially in this month of love, you're not going to go wrong picking these books up. This was my first introduction to the author Jasmine Moss, and I absolutely adored these books. I thought it was such a fun, crazy twist on Greek mythology and Greek mythology plot lines. But basically in this series, we have the concept of there being Spartans who are descendants of the Olympians. So we basically have the Olympic gods who are immortal and they are Spartan, beyond humans. And then within that, we also have the Chthonic gods, which are basically the darker gods within the Olympian set. So we have like Hades, and we have Aphrodite, and we have Ares, like all of the gods that are known for being more temperamental, if you will, within this group of gods. And under their branch, they have children who are known as the Chthonics. Now, the Chthonics, every time they use their powers, as they are demigods at the end of the day, they actually feel pain using their power, but they're much more powerful than the descendants of the Olympian gods. Now, the Olympians and the Chthonics have an agreement that basically any of their children get to compete in these various Spartan competitions to then thereby ascend and then become immortal on their 16th birthday. Unfortunately for our main female character, she is born in the human world. She has been raised by terrible foster parents, and she's essentially homeless at this point, looking out for herself and her younger brother. And throughout the course of this, she has an angel guardian in the form of an invisible snake. She's just trying to make it through the day. She's bullied at school when all of a sudden her test shows that she actually has Spartan blood. She's then whisked away to this competition where she now has to fight for her life and also prove that she is of Spartan blood. However, she will be the first female to do so. Throughout the course of this, we also have romance that's starting to brew. It's very dark romance, gray character, male characters who are very much of the type that they will burn the world down for their women. It is also a reverse harem, so we have a female character with multiple male characters interested in her. And in this first set of books, we are following the story of Alex and her lovers as she is just trying to survive. And we find out throughout the course of the book that she has none other than the blood of Hercules running through her. Jasmine Moss did a phenomenal job with these books, and I do think they're a lot of fun. If you're into something that's filled with trials and competitions and strong female characters that are just trying to make it out alive, not even realizing they're being courted by some of the darkest, most dangerous men out there, also set in a Greek setting, this is the set for you. I personally feel like this would be great for the fall, but I also didn't think you're going to go wrong if you want a little bit of that darker romance to sustain you throughout the course of the month of February. So again, we have Blood of Hercules and Bonds of Hercules by Jasmine Moss. Okay, I lied, guys. I lied. I am having one repeat author in here, but you have to understand I have an unhealthy relationship with Sarah J. Maas books. Now, one thing is, I did in my last video talk about the wonderful series A Court of Thorn and Roses, specifically A Court of Mist and Fury. But that was before I read all of the Throne of Glass series, and I can honestly say they're better. So I just wanted to throw that in here as well. This is following the story of our main female character, who is an assassin, Selena, and she is being thrown into a competition where she has to make it through as one of the reigning champions in order to survive. She is basically being given this opportunity because she is coming from imprisonment, and she ends up creating a relationship with Kaol, who is the main leader of the guard, and Dorian, who is the crown prince. All of this is happening underneath the nose of a corrupt king. So again, very powerful story. We do have some romance. It's a total of 8 books. And let me just put it out there that the last book in the series is over 1,000 pages, and it's absolutely phenomenal. And I finished it in a day. And let's also take a moment to just appreciate that the rest of the series is absolutely incroyable. And the series completely divulges after you get past book 3. 2 of the books, books 6 and 7, can also be read as a tandem because different characters are going through various journeys at the exact same time. So there's also different ways of reading the series as well. The original prologue story, which is The Assassin's Blade, can be read in between the series or at the beginning before you start the series or at the end of the series. So there's a lot of different fun ways to read this series as well. If you're someone who really loves a good story and you like a good series and you just want to be able to immerse yourself into a world and fully live in that world for a while, while also being surrounded by a good romance story with a lot of plot as well, this is your series. Definitely don't think you're going to go wrong picking up a Sarah J. Maas book, but in particular, Throne of Glass, in my humble opinion, was probably one of her best works of all time. Continuing with the realm of fantasy, I just also wanted to throw in Phantasma. This book is awesome. It is basically Caraval meets Caraval meets like a darker story. It is a paranormal romance that we're following a main character who's going through a bunch of different trials in order to basically escape this mansion that she's now sucked into in order to win a favor that will help her basically save her family legacy. And throughout the course of the book, the romance is impeccable, but also the ball gowns and the magic and the crazy trials that she's going through, it's just so perfect. And even though it's a little bit darker, I actually feel like it would work for Valentine's Day because of the fact that it also has that old school balls, dukes, and magic systems that are involved in it, powerful beings, princesses, princes, supernatural powers, all these things going on in this book. I just think this is probably one of the best books that I read in October when it came out back in 2024. And I loved the second book that came out with this series this year as well. I personally feel like I can see myself reading anything Kaylee Smith comes out with because of how much I adored this book. And I don't think you're going to go wrong if you pick up this book. And I personally feel like while I do think it's better set for a fall vibe, it's again one of those books that can transition well into the February season as well. We're now going to transition into more classic contemporary romance. And so I just want to showcase some of these books here. The first author that I wanted to talk about is none other than Lynn Painter. And I have 3 of her books here to talk about. The first one is Mr. Wrong Number. This is actually one of her adult novels. She has quite a few, but I did enjoy this one. This one is basically brother's best friend and girl romance, which was very, very funny. Also slightly enemies to lovers kind of vibes. It's fun, it's fast-paced, it's quirky, it's enjoyable, and I love the perfect pink cover for Valentine's Day as well. For those that don't know, Lynn Painter is also one of my all-time favorite authors. I think I like her young adult books more because they just have a way of capturing that innocence while still sharing such a darling romance that I just think it's too sweet and too special to not read. Better Than the Movies is following the story of the girl next door meeting the boy and them basically teaming up for her to win the heart of the boy that she's supposedly interested in without realizing that she was always meant to be with the boy next door. I think this was one of the cutest books I've ever read. I love the little quirky situations that they find themselves in. I love the little quotes from various classic romance rom-com 90s movies throughout the course of this book. Let me give you an example. So at the beginning of every chapter, there's a little scene from a classic 90s movie. So in the prologue, it says, "I'm just a girl standing in front of a boy asking him to love her," which is a classic quote, of course, from Notting Hill. Then for chapter 5, "Just because she likes the same bizarre crap you do doesn't mean she's your soulmate." 500 Days of Summer. And it's too cute. Like, I think the author did a phenomenal job with this book. Chapter 7, "I'd rather fight with you than make love with anyone else," which is the wedding date. So all of these little quotes from impromptu moments in various rom-com films, quotes that went down in history. It's just scattered throughout this book like a little landmine of gold. And then on top of that, the characters themselves, the story itself is just so sweet and so cute. We also have The Do-Over, which was, in my personal opinion, perfect for Valentine's Day because it's Groundhog Day only during Valentine's Day. So in this book, we basically have 2 characters that keep running into each other and having to repeat Valentine's Day over and over and over again, and they just don't know why. And she's basically stuck in the time loop as she rewatches her boyfriend, Josh, cheat on her over and over and over again and ends up being pulled towards an enigmatic Nick who she doesn't ever think she's going to have a future with until she realizes throughout her repeated Valentine's Day that there's real chemistry and love there. Such a great, great, great book. And I love the fact that it's set on Valentine's Day in the Groundhog Day fashion. Just absolutely perfect. And I just think there's something about Lynn Painter's writing that's just perfect for anybody looking for a good little romance that just leaves you smiling and happy on the inside. The next contemporary fiction author that I wanted to talk about is Catherine Center. as well as Christy Greenwood. So let's talk about Catherine Center first. Hello Stranger was a beautiful book. It's basically following the story of a young woman who is a painter, and she paints faces for a living. However, she wakes up one day in a situation where she has a medical diagnosis where she can no longer see a face clearly. She keeps having run-ins with this man and not realizing who he is, and basically they end up liking each other. They end up having a real connection. She then eventually does end up meeting him after her face blindness goes away, and eventually realizes who this man is. But in this book, the character's development, the character's growth, the character's just journey, I think, is really beautiful to see. And it's truly, truly a testament to loving oneself as well, and the growth that each of us can go through, and how even the worst circumstance can actually result in something beautiful. The romance is also very, very well done. And I think the story between these two characters is just so special and so sweet. And I do think that Catherine Center has a way of writing that it just hits you home in the heart. But in particular, I think Hello Stranger was just one of those beautiful novels that's going to make everyone have varying emotions pouring out of them as they root for these characters. You're going to feel moments of happiness, moments of joy, moments of sadness. You're going to cry with these characters, and you're going to feel for them. There's just something so intimate and beautiful about these two characters, and I just think it's perfect for a Valentine's Day read. Outside of that, I also loved Love of My Afterlife. For anyone who loves a good book that is basically going to be cliche after cliche after cliche of all the rom-coms in the world put together as two characters desperately try to find true love, this is it. This is also the trope of like guy next door kind of vibe / enemies to lovers. And I just think this was the best book ever. Basically, this is following the story of a woman who ends up dying, and she's basically given a second chance. She gets sent back to Earth by her death therapist, and she basically tells her that if you go back to Earth and you find your true love, you are allowed to continue living. So our main character, who basically gets sent back to Earth, knowing she has a very limited number of days in order to find her true love, ends up teaming up with the man in her apartment, trying to find him. This story was so cute. There are so many moments in this book where just you start laughing out loud. The scenes that are set are just so perfect. And this was definitely a 5-star read for me that I was not anticipating or expecting. And I can't think of a more perfect book to read around Valentine's Day. So would definitely recommend this for the February Valentine's Day lover vibes. Okay. Let's talk about some sports romance. Now, I know that this is a world and a genre of its own, but I definitely feel like there are some great sports romance books out there. One of my absolute favorites was surprisingly by Becca Mack, Consider Me. I think this entire series is absolutely amazing. It's the Playing for Keeps hockey romance series, but Consider Me is the very first one, and it's the one that pulled me in. In this book, we are following the story of NHL captain of his team character Carter Beckett, who is over the top, crazy, seen as a playboy, never commits to anybody, but has a heart of gold and is a puppy on the inside. And then we have Olivia, who is a school teacher, has no like crazy story herself, but she does teach hockey. And her best friend happens to be married to Emmett, who is a player on the same team as Carter and one of his teammates. Now, it just so happens that Carter ends up glancing at Olivia when they're at a party together, and he decides that she's one of the most beautiful people he's ever seen, and soon a romance ensues between the two of them. Of course, it's the first time where Carter actually has to open up and have real feelings towards a woman, which also scares him. And naturally, Olivia, who's the prickly girl who always protects herself and likes to put her energy into her sports and her kids, finds herself in a position where she doesn't know what to do with herself now that this famous hockey player is interested in her. It's your typical hockey romance, but I do think overall the story was absolutely adorable. It's definitely, I wouldn't say it's true Grumpy Sunshine, not really. Actually, it's more of best friends, like best friends, friend romance vibes. But anyways, I don't know exactly which trope to put this under, but I do feel like this was a great book, and I definitely would recommend it. The other book that's in the sports romance category that I absolutely loved was The Right Move by Liz Tomford. I think this book is absolutely adorable. It's just such a sweet story. We're following the character Ryan Shea, who happens to be an NBA player, and we're following the story of Indy, who is a young woman who has been jilted by her lover, caught him cheating on her with another woman red-handed after they've been together for 6.5 years, and now she doesn't know where to go and she needs a place to crash. Her best friend also happens to be the sister of our main male character, Ryan, and so Stevie ends up convincing Ryan to allow Indy to stay with him. Needless to say, they eventually find their way to each other, and the romance is just absolutely adorable. I think one of my favorite things about Liz Tomford books, though, is that she really takes a time to have the characters express their feelings with each other, and you don't get too much of that really annoying, complicated communication trope, which I really appreciate. And I like the fact that the characters are truly seen as adult individuals that are fully developed characters that are finding romance with each other. It's very moving, it's very well done, and I do feel like the story overall has merit, and I feel like both of these books are absolutely perfect for the Valentine's Day vibes. Another sports romance that I have to give a shout out to is the Bromance Book Club by Lyssa Kay Adams. She has 5 books in the series, and this is absolutely incredible. In this book, we have a NFL? What is he? He is Baseman. Yeah, so he is not NFL, sorry. He is National Baseball League. And he is married to the woman of his dreams, but he finds that he and his wife are disconnecting and they don't have a connection anymore. And Gavin just wants to save his marriage, but he doesn't know how. On the brink of divorce, he ends up joining a book club that is basically created by a bunch of professional athletes as well as high-powered individuals, such as CEOs and etc., oftentimes seen as big, strong, manly men who are basically together in a book club where they read female romance novels in order to better understand how to talk to their female counterparts in order to showcase that they love them truly and care for them truly. Such a great series and such a great book. This was absolutely adorable to read. I love Gavin. I love the other boys in the book club. I love the story that we have in this book. I love the grand gesture that happens at the end. I love the way he works so hard to get his wife back. It is just the sweetest book, and I definitely feel like it's perfect for Valentine's Day vibes, and I absolutely could not gush enough about this series by Lyssa Kay Adams. Moving on from sports romance into another subgenre, I wanted to talk about timepiece romances or historical romance, if you will. One of them is actually fantasy, but it is none other than Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber. She also wrote the Caraval series, which is also kind of set in this timeline. Basically, we're set in a ancient kingdom where there's still monarchs and balls galore, and these characters basically are young women who are just seeking their freedom and their empowerment and true love, and in the course of this they get mixed up in various magical systems. By the time we get to Once Upon a Broken Heart, which is actually the second series, which is a spin-off series off of Caraval, we've also discovered that the fates are real, and some of them, aka Jax, the fate of hearts, actually has more to his story than we originally thought. In this book, we are actually following the story of Evangeline Fox, who ends up finding herself in a position where she has to... Let me just read the back to you guys, because I'm trying to summarize it and it's not going well in my head. For as long as she can remember, Evangeline Fox has believed in happily ever after, until she learns that the love of her life is about to marry another, and her dreams are shattered. Desperate to stop the wedding and heal her wounded heart, Evangeline strikes a deal with the charismatic but wicked Prince of Hearts, Jax. In exchange for his help, he asks for 3 kisses to be given at the time and place of his choosing. But what Evangeline's first promised kiss, she learns that bargaining with an immortal is a dangerous game, and that the Prince of Hearts wants far more from her than she pledged. He has plans for Evangeline, plans that will either end in the greatest happily ever after or the most exquisite tragedy. This is a trilogy series. We are following the story of Evangeline and Jax as they basically try to revert the curse that has been placed on Jax and his family. It's a very, very sweet story. It's very, very whimsical and beautiful. You don't have to read the Caraval series in order to get into this book, but the Caraval series is also equally wonderful, and I think Stephanie Garber just has a way of telling a story, but it's just so perfect for Valentine's Day, and especially with this British cover, I just don't think you can go wrong. I love the beautiful pink, and I just think it's perfect for this season of the year. The next book I wanted to talk about is none other than The Duke and I, the first book within the Bridgerton series. It is almost March as well when I'm putting out this video, and as we know, the new drop of season 4 just came out, which is actually following the second book in the Bridgerton series, which is Benedict's story. But I do think second book or third book? I lied. This could be the third book in the series because I think Antony is the second book. But I just absolutely love the way the books are written. Julia Quinn just also has a way of writing that is just so stunning. Like, her quotes are just phenomenal. I love the relationship that the characters have with their mother as well. You really get to see Violet's like quirky side throughout the course of these books. And I absolutely love the way that the gossip pamphlet is created within this book as well. Obviously, with it being a historical romance, it also is filled with balls and debutante seasons and things like that, which is just so much fun. And of course, you get the Gossip Girl vibes in there as well. I just think you can't go wrong with a nice tea and a crumpet and a Bridgerton book during the February season. So definitely would recommend, dear readers, to pick up one of Julia Quinn's books and enjoy it for this holiday season. The next author that I wanted to introduce in this segment of historical romance is Indy Holton. She writes an amazing series, the Wisteria Society of Lady Scoundrels. And in this book, we are basically following characters that are actually criminals living in the world of the English royalty. And they are basically members of society that carry themselves a very high esteemed standard, but are petty criminals at the end of the day. In this particular book, we're following the story of witches and their absolute hatred of pirates, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, pirates. And unfortunately, we have a witch and a pirate who are sworn to be enemies, end up colliding together as they're chasing after a magical artifact and thereby finding love through the course of it. And of course, in the midst of all of this, ladies must be ladies. So let's not forget that we have tea and scrumptious tea sandwiches and macaroons and desserts and all such things throughout the course of this novel as well. It's just so perfect for the season, and I just think it's such a fun romance series. I would recommend starting with the first book, which is the Wisteria Society of Lady Scoundrels. The League of Gentlewomen Witches is the second one, and then what is the last one? The Secret Service of Tea and Treason is the last book. But overall, just a hilarious series and definitely fun for the holiday season because we do have the romance between the main characters, definitely enemies to lovers, but also set in this fun, quirky society where we have magic systems and pirates and all kinds of crazy things happening within the world of society. And that does bring me to the end of this video. I hope you guys enjoyed these suggestions in part 2 of favorites for Valentine's Day. I might end up making this into a mini series where I do holiday vibe books as I continue to read more and more of some of my favorites and things that I would recommend for the holidays. Definitely leave a comment below if that sounds like something you guys may enjoy. I really hope you enjoyed all the recommendations here. I would love to know your thoughts. Did you guys enjoy these recommendations? Have you read any of these books before? Have they ever been on your TBR? Definitely let me know in the comments because I do like reading them and I love responding to you guys. This channel doesn't mean anything without the community that we're creating here, and I really want to continue the open conversation. For those of you that are new, once again, thank you for clicking on this video and coming and joining me in this little corner of the internet where we talk all things books. I hope to see you back. If you do want to be part of the community, definitely consider hitting that subscribe button and that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of the videos that come out on Wednesday and Sundays. For those of you that are returning, thank you so much for being here once again. I cannot thank you enough. This community means the absolute world to me, and your support has meant everything. And I'm so truly thankful for each and every one of you. I very much look forward to continuing our reading journey together. And I will leave everyone with this, wherever you are, whether it's morning, evening, or night, during this month of February, I hope you're surrounded by love, whether it's self-care or indulging in intimate things for yourself, having a little piece of chocolate, enjoying a nice brisk walk in beautiful weather that you may enjoy, you know, dressing up in some of your finest garb and just enjoying a nice meal, or spending time with romantic partners, families, friends. Love comes in so many different shapes and sizes, and I hope that you are surrounded by it wherever you are. And I hope that all of you are feeling safe, secure, and loved, and having plenty of time to enjoy reading as well. I'll catch you guys on the next video. Bye, guys.